All right, ready?
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, here we go. Welcome to Talkin Shift, the first ever 1320 video podcast. I just got chills. This is cool.
We've been
Very
wanting to do
cool.
this for a while, so
Yeah.
this is cool that we finally get to do it.
I think as a team, we've been talking about it for at least 3 to 5 years.
At least, yeah.
Yeah.
And look how professional we look. I mean, this wall and the table, these mics.
Yeah, it was like $500 to get this all set up. It was a pretty cheap setup.
Hell yeah.
We went slightly over budget.
Yeah, just a tad. But look at that photo. That's
Yeah,
the,
this is the
that's the
centerpiece.
largest photo I think Woody's ever had blown up. It's got to
Yep.
be.
I've never seen any of my work blown up that big. That's cool.
It's amazing. And this is a really cool moment right here from Ice Cream Cruise about 5 months ago, like a really big team 1320 video, local Omaha moment, just the centerpiece of our podcast, which I'm really proud of.
I think that's the most people we ever had at the track for ICC.
Oh,
For
sure.
anything at that track.
Yeah, that
For
was
sure.
wild.
We have about 15,000 people on Saturday. But I also want to give a big shout out to John Cundy, who's behind the cameras, for all the work he did to put this all together.
Thanks,
Cundy.
Cundy.
He's
Appreciate you.
probably got 40 or 50 hours into this setup at least. But big thank you. But this podcast is something that we're going to figure out as we go. But the main theme is we're going to have some episodes with the four of us.
Yep.
We're going to have some guests on, and we want to hear from you guys. Who are some of the guests you want to see on here? But also, what are some of the topics that you want to hear us talk about? Today, we're going to be talking about crazy moments.
You're up. We've been doing this 20 years, so there's a lot of stuff to talk
Yeah.
about. Yeah.
Crazy moments riding in cars is our topic, but there's so many other things we want to talk about. We've got some ideas, but if there's things on your mind, let us know. Let us know
Heck yeah.
in the comments below. So, what I miss? Oh, let's go around and introduce yourselves. Some of you guys might not know all of us. I'm Kyle Loftus. I'm the founder of 1320 Video. I've been doing this for 21 and a half years.
I'm Fred, videographer. You guys see it's either Kyle or myself normally hosting the videos, and I've been doing this for 13 years ish, something like that.
You've been helping with stuff for longer than that.
Yeah, it's been a while. I met Kyle driving my Corvette, and he was driving his Corvette on 72nd Street in 2008.
Okay,
So
I
it's
guess-
been a while.
yeah.
And I'm Scott Whitty. I'm the photographer. Do some other things, but you'll see me running around running around the pits, hopping walls on the track, getting pictures. I think this is my 13th or 14th year. Went to what was it? Texas Invitational and COTS for my first 2 events ever.
When you were in hike school.
Yeah, I was skipping class to go to some races. Worth it. Totally worth it.
All right, I'm Matt. I'm a videographer. I've been doing this like 12 years now. I met Kyle at an after party for Ice Cream Cruise.
Yeah.
Nice.
All car community, Omaha, Lincoln car community folk here helping with 1320 Video. We started pulling in from other sources, but that's kind of the main theme. But today, like I said, we're talking about crazy moments riding in cars. And there's some reasons why you don't see many videos of us riding in cars anymore. And you're going to hear
We still do it.
the
It's
most
just,
of
it just
those. Yeah.
rarely happens anymore.
Yeah. TX2K and a couple other special times. We'll still do it, but we're a little more picky about who we ride with. We've been very lucky.
A little. Mostly.
Yeah.
Mostly.
Cameraman never dies.
So sketchiest, most memorable, first time over 200 is like the general theme. We're gonna start with sketchiest. We'll start with Fred. What do you got?
Okay, so sketchiest. I have a few, but one I want to talk about was a white Mustang. A white Mustang I got in St. Louis on the streets.
Oh, I was there.
Hand controlled car.
Yeah.
Got in it, and there's nothing wrong with the fact it was hand controlled. That wasn't part of the issue. But we were going down the highway. We were doing hits. Everything was fine. Unbeknownst to us, about a mile up ahead of us was Matt in a Mercedes, I believe.
CLS 60 or 53 AMG.
Yeah, it was a pretty nice car, and it had an oil cooler line that popped off, and then he had to pull over because it evacuated a bunch of oil. We didn't know that, and right when we get into this hit with his Fox body,
That's a
There
lot of
it is,
oil.
there
It
it
is a
is.
lot
Yeah.
of oil. Holy sh!
oh my God,
Moly.
yeah, that is a lot, and that's after he pulled over right there. So they're pulled over, and then all of a sudden,
Matt runs for a long time concerned about Fred.
Yeah. Yeah. So what's not in this video is while I'm talking to him, you can hear tires squeal in the distance. And there was Fred.
Yeah, I remember watching this.
and then off the
Dang.
side into the ditch. Now, the thing that was sketchiest about it was, so we were doing a hit next to that Fox body, and then all of a sudden we kick sideways, and then it happened so fast, but we kicked sideways, and I like was okay with the fact that the car was going to hit the wall. I was like, it kicked sideways. We're going to point it at the wall right there. I was okay with the fact we were going to hit the wall. And then he kicked it back. And then all of a sudden I wasn't okay with it because my door was facing all of oncoming traffic and everyone was racing.
Gosh. Yeah.
So I was like, no, no, no. Thank God everybody saw him get squirrely, slowed down. But then we went off the side. Obviously he can't get out of the car. Car's hand controlled for a reason. So I get out and then 4 dudes come. I don't know how we did this. We pushed the car out of the ditch. Don't know. I don't know. It didn't have. I was like, this thing had mud
there's
tires.
no traction on. There's no traction on grass.
No, and I was like, there was only like 4 of us, and we pushed it out of the ditch at that type of an angle. And then by that time, Matt runs up and he's like, "Are you okay?" Matt ran like a quarter mile down the road to see if I was okay because he saw the Mustang go off the side of the road. But that was one of the. There's a handful of sketchy rides I've had, but that one right there. Just because it was 5 seconds, but I could tell you every moment. I was like, we're going to hit the wall. Okay, this is okay. I'm going to accept this. It's going to suck. And then whipped it back, and I was like, every car is pointing at my door right now.
Mm-hmm.
So that was like the sketch. It was one of the sketchier rides I've had. For sure.
Hand control cars are really cool.
That wasn't the problem. It wasn't the fact that it was hand controlled. It was like, I was like, this is going to be a cool ride.
But you can't react the same in a hand control car versus, I mean, maybe you can. But we've seen a lot of really cool hand control cars, and for people that can't drive a normal car, it's really cool for them to have the ability to do that.
Yeah, and street racing. That was the first time I'd ever thought of like going street racing with somebody with a hand. I was like, it's the same thing. You floor it, you try to beat the guy next to you, whatever. That was the oil was not his fault. So there's that. But yeah, that's my story. Kyle, I think you have a pretty elaborate one, or does somebody else want to go?
I can go ahead.
We should save Kyle's for last.
It is a pretty good one.
Fair enough.
Kyle's is way sketchier.
All right,
it's a good part of the reason we don't ride in cars anymore as much.
Do you have one?
Yeah, I have some light ones. Nothing is. You guys actually have like a good story, and I have some times that were a little sketchy, but I've been lucky enough. I've never gone off the road, never got hit by a car. There's just been a couple of times where, like, I remember TX2K. I was in this blue Mustang. I think guys from like Missouri, and we're doing like 180 pulls, and when we get up there, the car is just like shaking super violently. When he puts the brakes on, I thought everything was just gonna fall apart. It was like the wheel, like that's what it.
And the worst part about that is people are so anxious, like so excited about being on our channel.
Yeah,
like they just forget about normal sense. So like people try and do things they wouldn't normally do. Like if they're like, I need to get this fixed before I street race.
He said it was fine. I was like, this good? He's like, yeah, we did like 4 pulls like that, and it was like very, very
Some
vibrating.
people will drive their race car and they'll be like, no, this is fine. This is normal. It's like, for you. I was like,
so we have a chat with people when we get in the cars. We started doing this probably about 8 years ago or so.
Yeah.
I think mainly after some of us rode in some cars with friends from Louisiana.
Yeah.
And we give them a little chat. We say, okay, don't do anything you wouldn't do if we weren't in the car. And runs are just for fun. So just get out of it. Things get crazy. There's no reason being a hero, just to be on camera doing something stupid.
Yeah.
Because I've probably ridden in at least 600 to 1,000 cars. It's hard to keep track. Like over 20 years, that was my favorite thing to do. Like that's what we're known for by some people.
It is fun.
But those are the 2 main things, and it does save us a lot. We also do some basic checks before we hop in with people, like kind of do a walk around the car, make sure there's seat belts,
ask some
talk
questions.
to the person.
Yeah, ask some questions. How long have you had this car built? Oh, I had it dropped off yesterday.
It was stock before.
That didn't stop me with J-Rod, but yeah.
Right, but it's like 1,700 horsepower. What's the fast thing you had before that? Oh, STI made 400. It's like, I'm not riding with you, buddy. That's a terrible decision. But yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. What was there more of the story?
So yeah, there's that car. There's been times where like, you're going really fast around a corner and they have skinnies on the front, which don't do well. So we end up like 3 lanes over. That's kind of scary. You make a hit and it shuffles across a couple lanes. Things like that happen. But yeah, I've been fortunate enough to not go off the road, get hit or hit a wall or anything like that. So Matt, I know you've had some things happen.
I have. Probably the one that sticks out first would be being in a Viper that popped an oil line, caught on fire.
Oh,
that was one of my favorite street racing nights.
Yeah,
that was
not
a
for
good
that
night.
reason, but all the accumulation of things.
Yeah.
I think everyone had a good time that night, but Matt's night ended pretty poorly, honestly.
I'm not mad. Like I got to ride in some pretty cool cars. Like twin turbo Viper is always really cool.
Oh
too.
Yeah.
I got to ride in 2 of them that night, but
Where was that at?
that was in Oklahoma.
Okay. Wait, the night that we were racing like bikes and in the
that's the
purple
same
Viper
night,
and all that.
actually.
Okay, I remember
Yeah,
that.
Purple
That was
Viper.
a great night.
Yeah. that's
So
the-
walk us through how this went down.
Well, there was a yellow 5th gen Viper. It was a Calvo build, I believe. And I got in with the driver. We took off. We were supposed to race a GTR, made 1,400 horsepower, which is exactly what the Viper makes. And we tried to line it up. Both of them were really anxious to see who was faster just because of how close the power range was. And after I think like 3 or 4 attempts with this GTR, got it off. It was a clean takeoff. We were both right next to each other. We just slowly pulled out ahead, slowly pulled like a little bit away. And while we're celebrating on like decel, like, heck yeah. And we pass a semi truck and I look over and I can see like the reflection of
The
like
glow.
a fireball.
The glow.
And I'm like, oh, heck yeah, we're shooting some
no.
big
That
fireballs
side,
now.
Side exhaust, yeah.
And you can't see it, but because his face is blurred. But when I pan over, his eyes are like literally like saucer plates big. And I'm like, oh, we're probably on fire. Pull over and pop the hood. There's quite a bit of, there it is.
Oh,
there
Right
it is.
there.
oh
Shit.
wow.
That was
Yeah.
a lot of glow.
That was a lot of fire. And it's on both sides, as you can see
Oh,
there.
I did. Yeah. Okay. I'm glad there's a video there for me to visualize that. That is even brighter than I was picturing.
I mean, watching now, I wonder what was going through that semi truck driver's mind.
Right?
He
Oh
got-
And
my-
fires are a common thing in turbo cars.
And you can see it's no small fire, but
No.
it's pretty terrifying to be in a car that's on fire going down the road.
So from my perspective, we weren't there. We just got done because there was like 4 or 5 Calvo Vipers, and there was a lot of people in to race them.
Mm-hmm.
And you were riding in a car that raced H2,
I was in the Purple Viper. It made like 1884 to the
and that
time.
race was a mess.
It was a mess because of that's one of the videos we'll talk about later. But it was a mess because the bike guys wanted to start the race a certain way,
Mhm.
and then we eventually and started it our normal way, and everything was fine, and we gapped them. So
Yeah.
That was.
But
that
then
was
we were
good
in a
night.
parking lot afterwards, and they were arguing about things.
Yeah.
We're trying to figure out how can we do this better. And then I think I got a call, and I think it was from you. I think you were calling me asking
it's
if we had
literally
fire
in
extinguishers.
the video. Like you can hear, I'm calling you, and I'm like, you're like, what do you need? And I'm like, literally anything: water bottles, a fire extinguisher.
So everyone's
So-
arguing, and I'm like, hey, who has a fire extinguisher? And they're still arguing. I was like, shut up. Who has a fire extinguisher? They're like, why do you need a fire extinguisher? Like, Matt's car's on fire.
I think it was
Go
like
get to him.
we were in a
So-
parking lot, and then it was right at
Right
that
down the
exit,
highway.
just right
Yep.
down
Yeah.
there, not
Okay.
far.
Luckily.
I remember J Rod showed up. He had his FD, like literally pulls up, slams on the
'Cause I
brakes,
think I was here at this
tosses
moment,
a fire
right?
extinguisher out, turns around, goes back, and then I forget what car shows up, but somebody literally showed up with a pallet of water, not pallet, like a 36 pack of water bottles. And so we're all like opening up water bottles and pouring them on this. There's the fire extinguisher.
Jeez, it just keeps going.
Yeah.
Luckily, you
Golly.
had a good fire extinguisher user there, because sometimes people are just so frantic they just start spraying it in random places, and it doesn't
Yeah,
really.
we're all
help.
yelling at him right here to do it underneath the
Yeah.
car too.
So was it dumping fuel or
It was an
Oil?
oil line, I believe.
Was it oil? Yeah, I couldn't remember what the cause was.
I can't either, to be 100% honest, but
That was
that
a really
was-
cool night. One of the most memorable street races.
definitely the
events
most
Yeah.
we've been
epic night
to.
of street racing I've had in Oklahoma.
Yeah, and I think that was, one of the most epic ones we've had since we kind of slowed down on,
Mm-hmm.
because it was right after.
it was 2019 or 20?
Yeah,
I remember.
right around the time of mine, which was scary. I think everyone knows what I'm talking about. The RS3 in Colorado, on fire, no brakes, for about 3.5 minutes
Downhill.
downhill.
Yeah.
So let me set the stage for this. There's this RS3 owned by one of our friends in Colorado that I think he just got a bunch of work done to it, and I've been wanting to ride with him forever in different versions of his build, but he was like really anxious to get some content on this. So we pull up with this McLaren and we do a hit. He couldn't meet up at the first spot because he had to like change out his wheels So he went and changed tires so that he could put his drag wheels on that had stickier tires. So he has like these quick disconnect brakes on it. So he went home, took the brakes off, put the new brakes on, put the new wheels on, and met us at I think the second spot, and I hopped in with him, and we set up this race with the car that we thought would be like the closest to keeping up with him for the first race, and it was this McLaren that was modified, 720S I believe, and we make a pole somewhere around the speed limit, and you can't see ahead of us right now, but we're going past this IKEA, very burned in my mind, but we're heading towards this overpass, and he's all excited, amped up. Like, he's great on camera. He's like very charismatic and loves to show off. So perfect for our channel. And like right as we're coming over this overpass, I'm like, why are we still going right around the speed limit? And I was like, you're good to slow down. He's like, yeah, I'm trying. I'm like, what do you mean you're trying? He's like, I don't have brakes right now. I'm like, and you can see here in this shot, we're starting to come down this overpass. It was like a really big overpass, and there was no uphill for a few miles.
How fast were you going right here?
Right there it says 60, and I'm like, we're thinking about different
Look at the
things.
smoke coming out of the vent.
Yeah, we're frantically trying to think of any potential option to get slowed down. The parachute, which had the pin in it still, and he was gonna throw the parachute on the guy, and he forgot to take the pin out. Like, if he wanted to throw the parachute on the guy, just be a jackass. The e-brake, which is electronic,
right?
And there was no power to the electronics to use the e-brake.
Oh, all the electronics was gone?
You can see the dash is on, but his e-brake wasn't functional for some reason. We didn't talk about it together, but he thought about putting it in the wall, but the jersey barriers are angled. So if you put it in an angled wall, he worried about us like rolling over or like my side getting smashed and I couldn't get out or something.
Right.
And of course, at some point you're concerned about your car and you think that it's not going to be totaled.
You're probably going at 40, but you can't slow down. You can see
my
your
door open. You see my door open.
Just
so
you can
I opened my door partially so I could breathe, also so that I could jump out if the flames came into the cab, because I was willing to take some road rash over getting burned, even though it's pretty similar. I put my foot down like Fred Flintstone style at probably 40 or 50 miles an hour, thinking that was going to help. But like, we're literally as desperate as you can possibly imagine.
Smoke.
That's fair.
That's scary.
Someone messaged me and said, "Hey, by the way, next time that happens, you can twist the vent so that the smoke doesn't come through."
Oh,
great
yeah,
for
thanks.
next time.
Thanks.
Great for
Yeah.
next time.
But it wouldn't have saved my lungs at this moment. You can see it billowing in.
Yeah, I feel like it would have found a way in somehow.
It was, I think we didn't have power. The screen was just powered on somehow. The car didn't have power. But then it went from like 20 miles an hour to like 2 miles an hour really fast, and we stepped out. You can see both of our doors are open. They were ready to jump out because it's very close to coming into the cab.
Jeez.
This is me following you in the Trailblazer, and just for like a
Yeah.
little
Holy
context from me, like I was trying to convince my driver to put his Trailblazer in front of you guys and like help slow you down, but it happened so fast. Like,
Yeah.
it feels like an eternity when you're there, but it's so quick.
Yeah, fire's the scariest
Yeah.
thing.
And at some point, I know he was probably concerned for like wrecking his car, trying some certain things, but you don't know at what point the car's going to be totaled.
Right.
This thing burned to the ground. Like 2/3 of it was toast. We thought about scrubbing the speed off the tires. There just wasn't any good solution. And people are like, "Why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do that?" When I talked to him at events afterwards, I was like, well, I'm really happy it went down exactly how it went, because both of us were completely fine. I had some smoke inhalation. It took a few days to get out of my lungs. But other than that, there was no injuries to us. It was just the car.
You can always look and say, like, what about this? Why didn't you do this? But
Yeah.
in the moment, like you said, it's
Mhm.
like, I can't even imagine what your brain is like trying. You're just literally trying to survive.
Yeah, and as long as both of you guys came out fine, like there's
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
could have done a bunch of different things. You guys came out fine, so
No
it doesn't,
burns,
doesn't
no
matter.
crash.
I'm happy it happened to me and not one of you guys, because it's pretty scarring. Like,
Yeah.
I've only ridden a handful of cars since this day because of that.
Hmm.
And going, like, leading to these events, I live for this stuff. I love the adrenaline rush. It is amazing. But like the days leading up to TX2K, for example, that's what TX2K was known for, was the roll racing.
Mhm.
I had nightmares. I had thoughts in my head of like things that could go wrong. And the rush is great leading up to it, but once you're at speed, it's just like I have this panic. And then once we slow down to a normal speed, I'm like, okay, all right, that was fun.
It's always like that. Like we're about to go out, and it's just like we're really good about talking to drivers, making sure these cars are safe and everything.
Yeah.
At this point, it's just like things can happen.
You have no idea.
Right. So
we've seen so many wild things happen on the track.
Yeah,
You have no idea what's
We've
going to
kind
happen.
of weeded out the common things that we can avoid, which is dumb drivers, new builds, stuff like that. We're with solid drivers, good builds, everything. But like you said, anything can happen, and sometimes it does. And we've just been pretty lucky, I would say.
And hopefully my mom's not watching this because she hasn't watched that video still. I called her the next day to tell her what happened, and she said she could just tell something was off.
Stinson, just put a little disclaimer. Linda, please look away.
Yeah.
Before that clip comes up.
Skip to this timestamp to skip this because I don't. Yeah. Sorry, Mom. There was a something. Oh no, I called her directly after that because of the other scary moment that I had, like TX2K 13 in the Supra that I was riding in, and you can find that at the end of the TX2K DVD. I think it was Texas Streets. Might have been the first Texas Streets. I think
That was.
I forget. But what
13?
happened in that one is we met up with the group like we always did at some random gas station, and they had a few races lined up, had a few other people coming, and it was one of our friends from Oklahoma. I didn't really know him that well, but a few of my other friends from Oklahoma City were there, and they said that he had an open passenger seat. They didn't give me any background. They should have told me about some other things that happened in his previous street racing history, but we lined up with this C5 Corvette, one of my favorite cars to see race on the street, and still an amazing racer today. He doesn't really do much street racing anymore, but he used to just street race so many weekends. So I hop in the Supra, and we do like 4 or 5 hits on the street from like 60 to 160 or whatever. And on the last hit, we're probably 120, 140 miles an hour, and it like every pass was so straight, like a little squirrely straight. And this one, midway through the pass, it just goes instantly left into the wall, hits the wall, and we bounce up a little bit and come back down. And my legs got smashed into the dash that folded up a little bit. And that was definitely a wild one. That really got me worried because I thought instantly I'm gonna die right here, but nothing really happened. But I didn't call my mom for a couple of days, and she had seen some posts about wrecks and stuff like that, and just kind of assumed that I was involved somehow, and she wasn't real happy when I told her a day or two later.
Fair.
So I called her right after the RS3 when I woke up that next morning. Sorry, Mom.
Talking about trying to be safe on the highway, good segment into when we went 200 mile an hour the first time on the street.
Yeah, that's a
Great segue.
great segue, Whitney.
Great segue.
All of us have done 200 plus on the street.
Yep.
Multiple
okay.
times.
And yeah, multiple times, multiple cars, some of us.
Mhm.
I remember Whitty's because I was like, have you done 200? He's like, no. I was like, this car can do it. Let's get you your 200. What? Go ahead and tell yours.
All right, so we're at a street race out in like St. Louis area, and we're at this guy's shop. Not many cars are going out, but there were a couple. And so this was broad daylight, actually. This was during the day.
I thought this was Atlanta.
It was Atlanta.
It was Atlanta. What
I
did I
was just gonna
say?
let him-
What did I
You
just
said
say?
St. Louis.
I did?
I was
Okay.
like, Matt looked at you. I was like,
We
what?
did do some
Well, the
daytime
only
too.
reason I know is because I was right next to him when he did it.
Yeah, yeah.
We went 200 like side by side.
What did meet in the middle happen at 2 different places?
Yeah,
They
two
had one in
different
Atlanta
years.
and St. Louis.
Okay, I was like, damn, I'm going crazy.
Anyway, sorry.
But
No,
we
you're
did do
Atlanta.
daytime street racing in both cities too.
Okay. That event was okay. I just try to forget about it. But anyways, so we're on the street out in Atlanta, and Matt was in a blue Porsche, and I got into our buddy, I think it was on his Lamborghini Superleggera, and it was I'm going to pronounce this wrong. It was the Blancpain. It's
Yeah,
the,
don't look-
racing series, the watches, but Blancpain GT series. It was one of 12 in the whole world. And it was like this highlighter or highlighter like greenish yellow.
Wrap. It was wrap deck.
It was
It was
wrapped.
a beautiful color.
All the inside was Alcantara with the matching stitching to the outside of the car. And I think it was just over 1,000 horsepower. Like it wasn't anything like super
Yeah, I think
crazy.
it was 1,000.
Yeah, the Porsche was like 900. Right?
Yeah. And so we went out and made a couple hits. And then Fred's like, you ever been 200? And I was like, no. And so Matt and Fred were like talking to each other. I remember in the video, they're like, all right, guys, we got to go back around. Whitty wants to go 200 mile an hour. So we're out on the street and race Matt. I think you're in the Porsche for that one.
Mhm.
Okay, so Matt's in the blue Porsche. I'm over here in the right lane. And we're just going like, it's just crazy. I felt safe because it was a Lamborghini and it was like, you know, kind of a track version. So it had the right tires, the right brakes. It, you know, it's built for speed like that. I felt comfortable for that to be like my
And
first
the
car.
right racer. Like we
Explain
found a
the
good.
Yeah.
feeling when you're accelerating up to that and you get to that 200 mile an hour point.
Well, you don't even realize how fast you're going until you hit past that like 180. Between 180 and 200 is so much different than everything before. Everything just starts like warping by. I don't know. This car it was just over 1,000 horsepower. So like we've been in cars that are 2,000 or 3,000 horsepower, and that is where like it's like almost hard to breathe when it's accelerating. This one it got to 200, but it didn't get there like hella fast. So I mean, when you get there, you're like, holy crap, we went 205. I pulled out my little GPS app thing so that it would log it. And then we also looked at the speedometer, but we went 205, won the race by like not much, by maybe two cars.
That's the
Yeah,
best.
we were right on your guys'
Great
tail.
race. And then we had to slam the brakes on.
Ah,
Oh yeah, our exit came up like super quick.
And
That's not a
traffic
good
came
idea,
up too.
200.
But
Not great.
it didn't feel sketchy at all.
Okay.
There was no like it just slowed down. Like massive fatty carbon ceramic brakes, like your vet. You know how you
Yeah.
talk
Oh, yeah.
about how it
Oh, yeah.
stops on a dime? That's what it was like. It didn't.
There's different experiences getting to 200. Like if it's like a, I don't know, 700 horsepower car, that's a scary experience to get to 200.
Yeah,
you
it
cover
takes forever.
so much ground
Yeah.
and so much time goes by that it just feels sketchy. I'd rather do 200 in a 2,500 horsepower car than in a 600 horsepower car any day because you get there like that.
How
Depends on the tires.
with the Lamborghinis, GTRs, and those cars that kind of get there smoothly and quickly. This one, because it was the Gallardo, it was still a single clutch. So I remember mentioning in the video, it was
It was an E-gear car.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
wasn't the double clutch like the new Huracans and stuff. So it still had like a little bit of a like
Kick in the butt.
you gotta feel it a little bit. Like it was nice and
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I loved that. And then the only other time, it's not on our video, but I was in a Ferrari Pista out in Idaho, and we did 205 exactly. It was on the 4th of July, and we're like ripping down the highway, and you can see all the fireworks going off in the distance. That was pretty neat.
Very memorable, I can tell.
Nice.
Yeah.
Matt?
Mine's the same as Kyle's. Do you want?
Yeah, I think Matt and I are the same. I probably went over 200 before. I just didn't like pay attention to the speed. Like
That's-
I've ridden a
yeah.
lot of
that was
cars.
definitely my first 200 mile
Why
an
don't,
hour.
why don't you explain yours? Ours.
Oh man, so it was early on in my career. I think it was definitely my first TX2K ever. So up until then, I'd probably
That was
rode
14, right?
14 or
That
15?
was 14.
Okay.
And so I think up until then, probably the fastest thing I'd rode in was like maybe 1,200 horsepower. Like still quite a bit of horsepower, but nothing crazy by today's standards. And I remember I was heading to Mullet Shop. This is how much of a throwback this is. Mullet Shop back in the day. And
Mullet's
that's
the
where
man.
that's where all of like the badass cars that were at TX2K would come out, meet up, and plan like who they were going to race and when they were going to go out.
They would have security at the front to keep all the racers out.
They would.
Loved it.
We
And so-
still see that cop to this day.
It wasn't a cop. It was just security.
Security guard. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
So I'm on my way to his shop and I get a call from Kyle. He's like, "Hey, you need to get in this car." And I'm like, "Okay, what car is it?" He's like, "It's 1,700 horsepower GTR. It's the Switzer Goliath X. Is 1,700 horsepower was unheard of at the time for the GTR. It was like
Yeah, it was
top
just
dog.
as street car GTRs are getting into this horsepower range
It was-
realm.
That was the
Absolute-
highest horsepower one I had heard of on the street.
Yeah, me too. I was like-
2014.
at the time.
I
yeah,
think
yeah.
I even asked him on the phone, like 1,700, and he's like, "Yeah." And I'm like, "Okay." So I get there, and what he told me to go off of was white GTR, black wheels. Well, I don't. If you've
At
been to
TX2K.
if you've been to TX2K, if you've been to Mullets, there's not very good lighting. So I'm walking around this huge ass parking lot, looking at all of these white GTRs with black wheels. I'm like, I'm gonna mess this up. Kyle's gonna be so upset. So as I'm walking back to like his actual like garage area, this GTR black wheel, says Switzer on the side, pulls up, and I'm like, this has to be the car. So I walk over, I'm like, hey, I think I'm supposed to be in this car. Like, Kyle told me to get in this. And I didn't know it at the time, but he was the owner of Switzer. And he's like, somebody's already in here. And I'm like, oh, well, who is it? And he's like, well, who are you? And I'm like, 1320 video. And he's like, oh, hold on a second. Opens up the door, and sitting in the seat is somebody from Mexico Racing League. And I'm like, oh, it's fine. Like, I don't, he got here first. It's fine. He's like, no, tells the guy to get out. And I'm like,
and for the record, the driver had arranged this with us for us to ride with him.
But I'm just like, I didn't have any of these details. So like, I'm in shock. And I'm like, hey, man, I'm sorry.
I just threw Matt into this situation his first time figuring this stuff out on the streets.
It was a lot to digest. He's like, it's fine. Like, you had an arrangement. And so I understand. I thought I could maybe get in. You could get in later. I'm like, well, cool. So I hop in, and we get on the highway, and this yellow Gallardo pulls up next to us, and I can see the camera. I can see Kyle. I'm like, oh, cool. Like, I actually get a race like Kyle. Like, it's just getting better and better. So get on, I think it's the Sam Houston Tollway is what we got on. Like, I'd been watching the TX2K
in
DVDs.
Mexico.
In Mexico. But like, there's this stretch of road where like there's train tracks in the middle of the highway. And I would have always wanted to like drive down that. And so I got to get in the fastest car I've ever gotten in, go down that road, and be a part of this race between two badass cars. But we start, line up. It's a bad lineup. The Gallardo jumps. And so we line back up, and I think my guy jumped or something. But like, it's just like a battle to get this off. Like,
when you have these cars at this power level, and they're completely, they both have DCT transmissions, but they're different cars, different drivers.
Right.
It's so frustrating.
But there was a lot riding on it at the time too, because Underground Racing, who like is top dog at building these,
everyone wanted to beat them.
Undefeated and like the king of the street. So like, this was the GTR's chance to like come out and like lay it down and be like, okay, we're not a joke.
Real quick, was this one of those times where like because sometimes when you get those high horsepower cars, they just go and expect you to go at the same time, and there's no count off. And that's the most frustrating thing.
So this driver wasn't a bully.
So you guys were able to count it off?
Yeah.
Okay. He was trying to get a clean start, but you never know. Yeah.
And how much power was the?
I think it was around 1700.
I thought it was like 19.
He never actually
was it Big Bird?
No.
Black?
No. It
yellow
was
with
yellow.
the black?
It was yellow and black, but it wasn't Big Bird.
Okay.
It might have been his car later, but it was owned by someone else.
Okay.
It's one of those things where they're like, it's on pump gas tonight instead of race gas.
Yeah, it's always on pump gas.
Yeah, even though it's got white tips on the exhaust.
This car could make more power, but it wasn't doing that on the street.
Okay.
But the GTR may have been able to make more power too.
So I think it's the third attempt at this. Both go at the same time. Both like dead even. The GTR like slowly pulls out of his life. And the best way I can describe what this is like is, you guys have obviously seen the intro to like the Star Trek, where like the Enterprise hits like the speed of light or whatever.
Warp speed.
And all of the like stars like warp and like turn into like lines. There's one point where like I'd been trained to like look through that little viewfinder, like make sure everything's lined up, but I was just like, I gotta like put this down a little bit and see what this looks like. And you could see those lights just like turning into like trails, like pushed back in my seat. It was such an adrenaline rush. And then it was over. We're on the side of the road. He hops out of the car. He's so excited. He's jumping around, dancing. I hop out. I'm part of him, jumping around, dancing. His buddies pull up. They pretty much fall out of the car. I think one guy falls out of the window of the passenger seat, and we're all like on the side of the road dancing. And this cop car pulls up, slams on the brakes. He's like, "You guys good?" And he's like, "Yeah, we just beat a Lamborghini." And the cop's like, "All right, bye," and takes off. And I'm like,
I forgot about that.
But that was quite the intro. Nothing felt fast after that for a very long time.
Can you pull up that video? I wanna see if what's in my head is what it looks like in video.
That's such a good video.
Because definitely
Right here, this is it.
here we go. So if you see, we are both inching back and forth,
On
and the GTR is just slowly pulling, but it was just the feeling, the sounds, and the warp speed that Matt was talking about all combined, and being that close, like literally we're like we're back and forth, close to each other, far from each other, trying to stay in our lanes, try not to hit each other, up to like 215 miles an hour or whatever it was. And it was just like the most exhilarating feeling I've ever had in in a car because of the excitement. And then seeing this video afterwards with the driver just freaking out because it's so hard to win a race against an underground racing car on the streets. And he was celebrating for months after that, I could tell.
Yeah, that's something to be proud of.
So you guys went 200 at the same.
Side by side.
That's
I
pretty-
might have
that's
done it
pretty cool.
before, but
That's
that
pretty
was
cool.
like definitely over 200.
Yeah. Nice.
And the driver was such a nice guy. We get such differing personalities of drivers that we ride with. Some people are just assholes and they just have to win, or some people are just in it for fun. But this guy was great. And one of the most stressful things of TX2K on the streets is trying to get in the right car. And sometimes you'll wait in Mullet's parking lot for 3 hours for a group to go out.
Yeah.
And I remember one time when I hopped in a Supra that was like 1,400 horsepower. We pull out over the highway. And on the on-ramp, he does a pull just to make sure everything's good. Throws a boost pipe.
Yep, brakes.
There goes it was a boost pipe.
And that happens.
And there goes the Lambos
all the
and all the
time.
Supras and the GTRs. And I'm like,
And you waited 3 hours for that ride.
Yeah.
Yeah, that happens.
Damn,
Yeah.
yeah.
I don't think people understand how
And someone
often
else
that
had-
can happen to us.
someone else had the keys to the car to go back to the hotel. So I was just like, I'm just going to hang out.
The worst is when you like line up a race and all of a sudden you're out there looking for that person, you can't find them.
Yeah.
You get separated, it doesn't happen. You're like,
Yep.
Great.
But the thing where pulling someone out of the car right before they're about to go, that's like, it just brings back that stress. It's one of the most stressful
Mhm.
moments because you know there's some epic stuff out there. You have to choose the right car, the right races, the right person, and try not to die.
All of those, yes.
All right. We haven't heard yours yet.
Oh, yeah. I think it was 2014 or 15. Stencil will pull it up here. It was TX2K video. We just found it right before we got on. That Porsche. Yeah. I went and it was the heavy hitters group, and they normally go out Sunday morning. I want to say this was a Sunday morning meetup, or it was Saturday night at some point, and all of us were in different cars.
There's so many cars out at night. and
Right.
Some of the locals like to go do something separate where
Right.
there aren't cops everywhere.
Yeah, because they go race. This was out. They went to like the Beltway way before TX2K went to the Beltway. Like this
Mhm.
was like no one was out there Sunday morning. They can do what they want, get coffee, and then do whatever. We met up with a group of the Houston heavy hitters. Rob was there. I remember in his ZR1, and Paul was there in his silver turbo Porsche. It made like 1250, something like that. I had never ridden in a Porsche that fast. And I was like, I want to ride in this thing so bad. So I got in with him, and I didn't realize how fast the car was. And I was like, and I didn't even think
So
that-
unsuspecting.
Yeah,
Like Porsches, you don't know if they're.
it looked stock. And I knew
Yeah.
Todd's car was fast, but it looked stock. And I can't remember which race it was, but I remember we were racing, and every time after the race, I'd look over because I was like, this thing's really fast. I look over and
Yeah.
the speedometer was right there. And there was one time we were racing, I look over and I could see the needle go past 2. I was like, I just did 2. Like I was like, I was trying to film, but mentally not freak out at the same time. So I don't think I mentioned it in the video, but I know I went over 200 that night, and I was like, I'll
man.
never forget that. It was silver Porsche. Now he's got a red Porsche.
That's a great person to do it with because
Yeah.
he's a great driver.
Freaking
and
amazing
car's-
guy. That's the best guy.
Yeah, the car is super solid.
And then
as I'm watching it smoking.
a white Porsche GT3 caught fire. That same night. I don't know if you were in it. I think you might have been in that.
I was behind you. I remember I was one of the people that like there on the scene after.
This is me going up and talk to the driver about what had happened. And I remember Mullet pulled over and he's like, I'll call my tow truck guy. And Mullet was in his his S-Class 63 or something like that, just following us.
Yep.
And he's like, I'll call my tow truck guy. And he's got a tow truck guy that picked up the car for him. But that was the first time I did 200. And yeah, there's been some other cars that have done, like the first time I did 200 in an underground Lambo car, the 6-speed car.
Oh, that'd be crazy.
That felt like, that was 20. He put race gas in it and made 25 at the time. And we were leaving a night meet and there was bikes that followed us on the highway. We didn't know. And then he's like, oh shit, these bikes have wanted to race me for a while. One of them has. And it was like a Gixxer 1000. It was turboed. Don't know how much power it made. But they lined up with him and he basically said, all right, go. He's like, I'm not going to brake boost. And so he went and he's like, and then we caught up to him really fast. Like I had never felt anything that fast before. 2,500 on the street was crazy. Or 23. It made 23 at the time. But the only thing I can describe
That's a lot.
is it felt like the hand of God pushing you down the road.
Yeah.
It was a 6-speed car.
Yeah, that's
6-speed car.
That's a good way.
So
2300 horsepower.
every gear was just
Yeah.
It was insane. And then we raced the bikes got off, and then he's like, do you want to do one like really top of fifth pull? I was like, yes. So by ourselves, we weren't racing anybody, so it wasn't like that intense like you guys. But we went, it was like 236 on the street. That was the fastest to this day.
Don't do this at home, kids.
Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it.
These are
Don't do it.
professionals.
But
Us or the drivers?
I'm not driving these cars.
that was the fastest I've ever been on the street. But I was like, literally, it felt like the hand of God pushing you down the road. There's no other way I could describe it. But that was like, and that broke me. Matt just said it broke me. Like there was no other car I could ride in after that. That was fast.
I think the worst part about that is like after that happens, you're broken, and then you ride with somebody, and they're like, "How was that? Was it fast?" And you're like, "Yeah, man, fast, dude."
I'll
Cool
be the one to admit, if you've ever ridden with me and you've asked me that question, I said, "Yeah, dude, pull smooth." That means it's not that fast.
Wow,
That's the worst when someone gets in and like, hey man, this car scares people. Sometimes they tell you about how fast it is, and all their buddies are like scared to ride in it,
And
and then you go ride in it, and you're like, that was nice, dude. That
No,
was
these,
really
and these
nice.
cars are legitimately fast. You put anybody else in these cars, they are freaking out and they're fast. We're used to doing that while still trying to get like a camera angle at 200.
There's a feeling you get in your chest, and it's like the G's and everything. Like when you're actually in a fast car, it's almost hard to like control your entire
wild.
body.
Yeah, it's wild.
When you can feel a couple G's on a analog launch from 60 miles an hour in a car, there's not much else that compares.
Yeah, that
You
feeling.
get a couple of G's from a roll. It's insane.
Yeah.
So we have one other topic to talk through, which is most memorable ride-alongs.
Yeah.
I could start with that because it kind of carries over from the last one.
Okay,
sure.
go for it.
So I was riding with our buddy Jeff Hagman, who unfortunately passed
Miss Jeff.
away.
R.I.P. Jeff.
That's probably a story for another time. But that was like the worst day I've ever had at 1320.
Yeah, no shit.
But yeah, so we're out in, I'm thinking North Carolina. I couldn't find it in the videos, but I wanted to do 200. And he was like, oh, I got you. We were in one, he had like three different GTRs at the time. And this one was like his middle one. It only had like 1,800 horsepower, 2,000 horsepower, or something. And we got on the road and we're going, just get over like 190. I think I remember seeing like 192, 193, something. And the charge pipe blew off. So didn't get 200. And then the car goes into limp mode. Well, however it worked out, we were, I want to say 7 miles, but obviously memories are like different over time. We were really far away. Jeff had that like, I don't give a fuck attitude. And you can believe
He always
that.
had that.
It was just, he just wanted to be happy and have fun and do stuff
Very
that
carefree.
made in life enjoyable.
Just a good time.
Mhm.
So this GTR is in limp mode and it just, and then you hear a clank and then it shuts off. And he'd be like, no worries. He'd turn it back on and we'd go down the road and be like, clank, and it would shut off. And we did that the whole way back to where we started.
How far away was it?
That's what I'm saying. There's no way it was 7 miles, but it was a few miles. Like it was a few miles to the point where it took us,
How far did each start get you? How many feet?
golly, not far at all.
Like
I mean,
100 feet per start?
maybe like 40 yards. And again, this was a while ago, but like that thing had to have just been just the sounds it was making, that the metal clank at the end of each time before it shut off. I was like, he's like, no worries, we can just go back and get my other one. We didn't.
Jeff just
Back up GTR.
He was
Yeah.
just here to party. He was here for a
He
good
just
time.
loved going fast and
Yeah, he did.
screwing around. And
So that was extremely memorable because like I've been in a lot of cars, that we go fast. We have great races that are super close. We have a 3 or 4 wide race that's just epic, but like nobody's ever done that. And people just, if something goes wrong in the car, that it's, understandably pretty big deal. It's not good. Like that's a very expensive fix, especially with a GTR. Some of those transmissions are $50,000 for the Shep
easy.
billet ones. And he does not a care in the world. And that was how I remember Jeff. And I think that's how everyone else remembers him too. And so I think that was the most memorable because it highlights, who he was. And so, yeah.
he was always smiling.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Jeff was awesome. Heck yeah.
Who wants to go next?
Matt?
I'll go next.
Okay.
I don't remember I gotta
most
think about it.
memorable.
Most memorable?
Okay, I can
Go.
go. All right.
Go ahead.
Go.
All right, so most memorable, I was thinking it would be, I mean, definitely the one I just talked about with the no brakes on fire for 3.5 minutes, but I forgot about the 3DX Evo.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I forgot about the Suicide Evo.
Oh,
Suicide Evo.
in Sweden.
And this is a video where I'd never really done any voiceover work, but after filming this video and I got home, I was like, I hadn't really considered making a video about the ride in the car itself because we were filming the Stockholm Open, and I wasn't talking much during this moment because I was scared shitless for a collection of about an hour and a half over a bunch of different rides from point to point. So at the Stockholm Open, there's different street races going on all over town for about, I don't know, 10 hours.
Yeah, thereabouts. Yeah.
And so you have to have transportation that gets there quickly, knows how to navigate through traffic and get to the next street race before it happens if you want to film as many races as possible.
I think you got
This
in
was the
best
most-
car. You best.
There's no other car that's ever been transportation for the Stockholm Open than this car that gets there faster.
Yeah.
We were all out at about 160, and this is just bolt-ons Evo, nothing crazy, but the driver was the determining factor here. The driver was, what do we call him? The
Kim.
Swedish Stig?
The swig.
The Swedish
swig. The
the Swedish
swig.
Stig.
And
Cutting it up.
literally we were floored at 160 miles an hour for minutes at a time.
That car was built so well.
Going to 200 miles an hour for a few seconds is one thing, but 160 for minutes at a time. And I was just literally holding onto my camera with sweaty hands, just filming everything in case something happened. He was he pushed through it from a guardrail between a car and a guardrail. There's a moose. That was like one of my first times seeing a moose in the wild. There was one of the most memorable points here. I don't know where it's at in the video. But the nice thing about Europe is drivers in Europe are very courteous. They follow the rules of the road. Left-hand drivers don't exist in Europe. It's illegal to have a semi in the left lane ever. And you have to be passing if you're going to be in the left lane. So I didn't really understand this fully when we were there. So we're passing people that are going 70 miles an hour at 160.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just having faith that they're not going to swerve over to the left for some reason. We're flying through stoplights, flying around corners, drifting corners. We had a police car behind us with its lights on. Turns out it was one of his friends that had police lights on his car. But we did have a few police actually turn their lights on, and we got away from them.
I don't think I've seen this before.
You haven't?
This
Okay,
is
you
like a
have to
freaking
go watch it.
movie.
Dude, it was.
Holy
But it's all voiced
shit.
over by me talking
Kim
about
was
these moments.
such a good driver, and he was a heavy equipment operator. That's
Yeah.
what he did as a day job, and he just drove the shit out of this car.
Dude, this is crazy.
We're going through these stoplights, sometimes like 40, 50 miles an hour, and I don't know anything about these intersections. He does. He's been through all of them.
Sure.
But the craziest moment, I don't remember where it's at in the video, was we're passing cars. In this, there's like a car in the middle lane and a semi-truck in the far right lane, and we cut through the middle of him, and the semi-truck comes over, and he turns, and like just within it seemed like a foot or two, it might have been 5 feet, just slides around this like flatbed trailer barely. That was the moment where I was really worried about it.
That looks fun.
And then towards the end of this, there was a RS6 wagon.
Oh, I just saw it.
Right there.
Oh yeah, there it is. So there's an RS6 wagon. I didn't really know anything about these because they came out what year, like 2012, 13.
Europe's had them forever. But
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
okay. So, and this is like a 500 or 600 horsepower
yeah.
wagon.
That one's modified, so it probably makes like 657.
And it's full of people. There's like 5 people in here, and we were street racing them, and we were not just doing a rolling like quick street race. We were just chasing each other,
Mhm.
just like edging each other out. And there's like 4 or 5 people in this wagon, and we're having a great time. I guess there's 4 people in the Evo too. Kimmo's in the back seat. Shout out to Kung Kimmo and all of our Swedish friends. The Stockholm Open is the craziest street race on earth. It's never been beat.
We could do a whole episode on
Yes.
the
for
Stockholm
sure.
Open,
Oh
and we
my
will
God.
at some point because that race, that's
Oh
my
my
favorite
God.
street race I've ever been to
Yes.
by far. Yeah.
All our Swedish friends are awesome.
Yes. Kung Kimmo Media, look him up. Awesome guy. Matt?
I'd actually like to go last. The video that was most memorable for me, I don't know if we even made a video of it. It was
You can still talk about it.
okay. Well, In Albuquerque, New Mexico, there is this road that goes to a military base. And
Legendary dig spot down there.
you can race 3 wide
Yeah.
on this road. And we were roll racing one night, and I hopped into a EM1 blue Civic, and we raced 3 wide. And so going away from the base, it's no problem. Like that road's miles long, just complete straightaway, 3 lanes. But we turned around at the top of the street and came racing back. Well, we got a late jump. We let the other 2 cars, I think it was like a 240 with an LS swap and a SN95 Mustang, go and get the jump on us because we beat all of them going away from the base. And on the way back, he gave them the jump so we could catch them. And I think he must have misjudged just how far it was on the way
Depth
back.
perception was not there.
Yeah. So in my head, I'm like, okay, we beat him. It's time to let out. And like right as I'm about to say it, I look up past my little viewfinder on the camera, and I can see where the road curves over to go into the steel gate that is the military base. And he locked up the brakes, turned the car to the side, and we went over a curb probably at like 60, 70 miles an hour.
Oh
Just
my God.
blasted the
Did it take
driver-
the wheels off?
It blasted the rear driver's side wheel underneath the car. So I get out. I look at it on my side, and I'm like, we're good. Like, hallelujah. We're fine.
Let's just
Like,
drive off.
Yeah. And so, like, I walk over to his side to see him, and he's like, oh, no. And I'm like, oh, no. So once that happens, there's probably I'm guessing it was a loud noise. I don't really remember. But they have a guard at the gate to the base, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
And so he probably saw like a car go Tokyo drift sideways or right over his curb in front of the base and called the cops. But
Damn.
while we're all standing there, like everybody from the spot saw that, heard it, came down or whatever. Everybody's got an opinion of how to get the broken car out of there. So we're all arguing. He's like, I need a ride to my truck. I can get this. I have a trailer. And so as this is going on, cops show up. It's complete pandemonium. Everybody's running away, trying to get back to their car. And in the confusion, my friend Kyle here left me.
Oh,
So,
damn.
Wait,
maybe it was probably you, actually. I don't know.
No.
It was one of you two. One of you two left
That was
me.
not me.
So it's
yeah.
me
Yeah.
and Will. And Will's a good guy, but Will's does some things sometimes that make for good stories. But
That is the
Good way to
best.
put
That's
it.
the best
So,
way you could have put it.
Will
Matt.
is standing on the sidewalk with his camera yelling things. And I'm like, Will, there's a cop behind you, and rolling up behind him is a police car. And they're like, get the hell out of here. It was a little more vulgar, but I'm literally hiding in the bushes, like on the phone with, I think you, and you're like, we went back to the shop.
Well, we
I'm
all
like,
rode back in the cars we got there too, so I assumed you were good. I didn't know you were stuck with no rear wheel.
You broke
I
your
didn't
car.
leave you.
I didn't break my car.
We didn't ride there
I
and hop
just-
in with people. We hopped in with the cars we were in. We were going to ride back to the shop.
I got abandoned, point blank. I got abandoned.
My mom left me soccer
Yeah.
practice.
Yeah, dude. So I called you. You're always the person I call when stuff goes wrong. I'm like, hey, can you come get me? I'm stuck here and the cops are here. So I think like the cops must have got like hung up on like everybody going everywhere. They didn't even make it to the Civic. And so you came back and got me. We're in the car and we're driving down the road back to the shop, and over the dash, I see this blue Civic driving down the road. I'm like, no way. It was the Civic that had its wheel cambered under the car on the driver's side. And so I'm recording. We roll up. I'm like, are you good? And he's like, no. And I'm like, well, there's nothing we can do. Go. But after that, the police stopped him on the side of the road, and they're like, what are you doing? He's like, I broke my car. I need to get it back to the shop. So he got a ride from the police to the shop to get his trailer
After a street racing accident.
after a street racing accident. And so like we're all
It's a
at the
pretty
shop.
innocent crime in Albuquerque.
A police car.
Fair,
That-
fair.
That
That's
is
fair.
more
That's
than
fair.
fair. But the police car pulls up. He gets out, and I'm like, what was that all about? And he's like, they gave me a ride. They didn't want me driving my broken car on the street.
That's nice of him.
Yeah.
He's such a nice guy, the little guy you ran with. He was very quiet.
Was that the
He-
same spot where we were at Street Digs I remember that Street Digs guy?
Street
Three
digs.
Yeah, it was 3 wide. And I remember we sat in the far left lane and had the 2 other cars roll by like full speed. They were in it. And once they hit where we were, we went and we still won the race.
That was an STI, wasn't it?
I think so.
It was, because I remember watching that video trying to look for this one.
Yeah, Subaru of some kind.
Okay, yeah, that was a
Same spot. We
Okay.
could probably do
I
a
was trying
whole
to picture
entire
it.
podcast talking about Mexico street racing.
Yeah.
New Mexico.
New Mexico.
Yeah.
Sorry. New Mexico.
By the way, speaking of Will, that might have been the same night he rode on someone's floorboard in
Yeah,
the street
that
race.
was
The
a
DSM.
Talon,
He
and
was
that
about
was,
it.
that was a
Talon.
different
About it.
night.
He's
Okay.
always down for some quality content.
Wild.
I remember that. No seat. Literally sat on the floor.
Mhm.
Crazy.
Yeah, I won't do that.
All right. Did we talk about yours?
No.
All right.
So I have a couple, but one of them it's the night that in Oklahoma with all the Vipers,
Yeah.
and I was in the purple Viper made like 1884, and we had decided before we went out we were going to race this bike. And this bike, I don't know why every bike guy just never wants to tell the truth about how much power it makes, but he was like, yeah, it makes like 300, and then everybody else I heard it from made like 500, 600, whatever it was.
Isn't it funny that that's always how that goes?
Always. And it was an H2, and they had just come out as a brand new bike, but this one was modified. It's the first modified one I'd ever heard of.
Was it the H2R?
I'm
This
not
one
sure.
had an
I'm not-
extended
I'm not
swing
100%.
arm and like some
That
upgrades.
purple's so sexy.
Because the H2 goes like a little over 200, but the H2R tops like 249.
Well,
and
this
it's
is
supercharged.
modified.
This
This
is-
is supercharged.
Yeah, and then they had nitrous on this one too. And
Yeah,
that's
this
why
one's
this one's
modified, so it
fucking
made
fast.
it made so much power. But
yeah.
so I've ridden in this Viper a couple times. This time was with the Calvo tuner was driving the car. And we tried to do some hits. The thing that made the race so weird is the bike guys were so specific on how they started the race. They had one bike go out ahead of us, like 20, 30 feet, whatever it was. And they said, all right, when he hits his brake and you see the brake light up, that's your go. I was like, okay. So first race we went, and the bike comes up in front of us, hits the brake, and we go. He's like, no, that was just me slowing down to get ready. It's like, no, we were both like ready. Like we were on we were on rolling anti-lag. Like you had to know. And they tried to do this same attempt of starting a street race
that don't work.
3 or 4 times. Let me just say, I've counted off hundreds or thousands of these street races. So is everybody here. We do it pretty well. We've done it pretty well. It works. So after 3 or 4 times of doing this dumb stuff, we pulled over. We got him to agree to go back out and do it. So I counted off the race, and then we finally got the race off. And then this is what happened right here. He disappears basically. Every shift, you see the flame come out every time he pulls the gear, and we just disappear from him.
His tack's not dropping very fast. He was shifting it quick.
Yeah.
The speedo bounced off 200 there.
Yeah. I think the race was supposed to be to 180, but I think we hit 200 just to like put the nail in the coffin on that one. But I
There's
think we were
nothing like those Vipers.
There's
Man,
so much
there's not.
torque. The torque is what's crazy about it. And then just the grabbing the stick and God, the sequential shifter is just my favorite thing because it's so good.
That
Kyle's
was-
actually driven one of those. I have not. I've just ridden in them. But that's probably a story for another time. But yeah, that purple Viper is one of my favorite cars I've ever ridden in by far. But then as far as like a whole night that was memorable, you and I in Qatar.
Oh my gosh, I forgot about that.
We went out to this. So let's go back. So this was
The dream roll
so
race
in
spot.
2022, they hosted the
World Cup.
And if you guys didn't know, Qatar is this little thumb peninsula off of Saudi, and there's not much there, a bunch of desert. But they built these stadiums in the middle of nowhere, and then they had to build roads out to them, so when people came for the World Cup, they could get to them and everything. So these interstates were like 6 or 8 lanes wide going each direction. And they had opened this road the day before we went out.
Yeah.
Nobody was going out there because there's no reason to go out there unless you're going to go look at the stadium that's going to be sitting there for the next year and a half and not getting used. So we go out first.
We started off, yeah.
First of all, we started off the night by
I've always wanted to do
this guy pulled into the parking lot, and then he just starts doing this. We're like, what the heck? And the guy that assembled the cars for us, like, yeah, I told him to come. He does this all the time. I told him to come by and show you guys. And then
Up on 2 wheels.
he pulls over, and then we got in the car. And we got to go ride for it. I remember we were like at a certain degree,
So crazy.
and then I was looking at the ground. Kyle's in the seat in front of me. I'm like, okay.
We didn't know he was going to do this. He just pulled in the parking lot and started doing it. I'm like, look.
Is that a Land Cruiser?
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
Oh.
or it's a Nissan Patrol, I think.
Oh.
I think
Oh, yeah.
We never got those
Yeah,
here.
Patrol.
But he's just whipping it sideways like that, and we hop into the car, and I think we went like 13 or 14 miles an hour. They don't do it crazy fast. Not when they're doing.
He
a
did it
parking
so
lot thing.
naturally. Like some of these guys, you see, they have like a ramp. They go up on one side. He just like goes over and just like casually whips it, and it wasn't anything drastic. You don't even know. I didn't even really know that the tires were off the ground. I just looked over, and all of a sudden the concrete's right next to my.
And he's just cruising at like 13 miles an hour. And then when he put it down, it was the
So
smoothest.
soft.
I was like, what? And they did have they have sand tires over there, so they're more narrow, kind of more of a bubble.
Okay.
And they look really cool. And that's the tires he had on that.
That's some.
But after this, we got in a bunch of different cars, and we went out and rolled on these 6-7 wide highways. And I remember a car I rode in. I don't know how many hits we had. We might have had just one hit, but I remember in a 11 or 1200 horsepower Nissan Patrol that was stick shift.
Really?
I love so the
There
Nissan
it is.
Patrols.
Oh, dang.
The Nissan
Some old
Patrols.
school one,
There's
huh?
Silverados right there too. The Nissan Patrols had a 4.8 liter inline six, so like a super 2JZ.
Look
is
at
what I
that,
consider it.
5 lanes wide.
Oh,
Big-
the light.
Big 2JZ, huh?
Oh yeah, 4.8 liter, and then
he's leaving the Corvettes.
brother, that thing was so fun.
That's so
So
cool, dude.
he missed shift, and I think we blew it. I think we lifted the head. A little water came out. We pull over on the side of the highway. This is the crazy. Pull over the side of the highway. There's nobody there. There's 7 lanes wide. He takes the keys and puts them on the tire, and then we hop in with another car.
Dude,
And
get out.
And
Just-
I was like, is that good? He's like, yeah, I called tow truck. I was like, but anybody can come take it. And then I come to learn later that the laws are so strict. If you get caught with somebody else's wallet in your possession, you get years in prison. So if you steal someone's car,
oh, you're doomed. It's curtains.
so no one would even consider it stealing a car that isn't theirs because the penalties are so high.
Mhm.
So that was crazy. He just left it on there. And then I hopped in another Nissan Patrol later. I think Kyle got a lot more hits because it was me in a Patrol for like 2
I
or
don't
3
remember
hits.
what I rode in.
You got a Silverado, I think,
That's
a couple
right.
times.
And
There it
was-
is. The
yeah.
black one is the one that broke.
Man,
yeah.
dude.
Just left
There's
the key
the
there.
key.
Just left the key. And I was like, you're good? He's like, yeah, nobody's
Well, we
nobody's
saw-
dumb enough to do
if
that.
you
You
looked
can
at
see
a
the shot
head,
down the
too.
road. There's nobody on the road. Absolutely nobody.
6 lanes wide, 8 lanes, and that's for miles. We went for miles and turned around when we felt like it. We're like,
It is
we're like
dream
30
roll
minutes away
racing.
from town. We should probably turn around.
It's nice of them to leave the lights on just for you guys.
I had
Right?
whiplash
Yeah,
at this.
right?
I had whiplash at this moment from our ride in the sand dunes the day before, and then we hopped on a plane like 6 hours after we filmed this.
Oh, crazy.
Oh,
There's a lot of
yeah.
things that happened that trip.
That was a wild trip overall.
Yeah, we on the way back, we got separated from the group somehow. We got lost, and we were in. I think I might have hopped into patrol at the end, and we took the wrong exit, and there was nothing connecting anywhere. So we just went off roading through the desert to end up in some neighborhood to get back on the highway. It was so funny.
But that's like just super memorable night from just street racing in general. Even though my car broke and I got in another car and I don't think we did much
Yeah.
racing with that. It was just like the wild is like, this is the perfect location at the perfect time. Like this highway opened yesterday.
It was a dream for
Yeah.
sure.
There it is, right there. No other cars
Yep.
anywhere. If you see any other car, it's a piece of construction equipment that's not being used, or they're part of our group.
Oh, that's a thing of beauty right there.
We could talk for days on ride-alongs. Collectively, we definitely have over 1,000 ride-alongs under the team's belt for sure.
Easy.
We're professional passengers, but we're gonna have to wrap up this part of the segment. We wanted to talk about where we've been, where we're going.
Sure. Yeah.
The last few events we did Sick Week, we did Arizona Cash Days that just came out, and
Merrill
we've
Ice
been
Drags.
to Merrill Ice Drags.
Yep.
Where did we go before Sick Week? Or was that the first one?
No, that was what we kicked the year off with Sick
Yep.
Week.
Okay.
And then we just got back from.
Florida.
We just got back 2 days ago. Florida, yeah, thank you.
Florida.
Immokalee.
Yeah, north versus south. But Sick Week was amazing.
Yep.
Good time.
Uh,
Good time.
It's a great time to escape Nebraska.
Yes.
Oh,
Get in
for
some
sure.
good weather.
And I think that was probably, at least for me, one of the most entertaining dragon drives I've been to in years.
Stacked field.
Staff.
Oh, yeah.
I think they were like, oh, we had 300 and some odd racers, and then they just said anybody else that shows up that was on the reserve list they just let in. So it's-
386.
yeah, 886
And
racers.
there were a few Hot Rod Drag Week had like 389 or something one year. So there were a few that were bigger, but not by much.
right.
And then somebody threw the stat out that it was like 20 cars on the property at least were 6-second capable cars. And then there was a ton of 7-second.
We lost a few
capable
right
cars.
away.
We
We
did.
did.
Every day
Sure.
we by the last day, I think we had lost 86, so we were down to 300.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So we lost 86 over the week.
The
At
roughest
least.
part about that trip for a lot of people was the first day because there was weather delays. There were so many cars.
One hit.
They were planning on having the slower like daily cars, during testing they could turn their slip in so they didn't have to race the first day, and none of that happened. So
Usually on day 0.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And on day 1, everyone only got one pass, and a lot of people are like, they have a different mindset when they think they can get 2 or 3 passes.
Yep.
But Tom Bailey, who was potentially going to try and run 5s every day, ended up in the other lane, which disqualifies you. They gave him a 20-second pass. And so he just left his car.
There's no point in even competing after that.
Which sucks, because I love seeing that car go down the road.
And
it looks so cool.
It's like that car is cursed at his own event. Because like I remember every year he's taken 2.0, it hasn't made it. It's made it like, I think it made it out of the first track about a half mile.
It did.
And
it
that's
made it
about
like
as
a
far as-
mile away from Bradenton.
It's I'd feel so bad, but I know he wants to go and do cool stuff with it, and that's why he wasn't going to take the 20. But
We'll see it race again. The
Yeah.
Cletus Cheap Car Challenge,
Oh, dude,
that was
so
amazing.
fun.
Sounds like they're going to continue that at Six Summer.
yeah,
most likely.
that should be that should be just high level entertaining, just to check in with them on the daily for 5 days, because that's going to be fun.
I wonder if he's going to add any safety to any of those
They
cars.
will. Yeah,
No,
they
they
are.
think they're mandatory going to add like hoops and bars.
The
and
reason I
stuff.
say that is because this photo that I got from directly behind Lumberjack, you could see all 4 tires with space in between, which obviously isn't supposed to happen. One wheel's like facing this way and turned in, and
I
the
was
other
dog
one's
tracking a little bit.
It
yeah.
was wild, and I posted up on our Instagram and Facebook, and it got a lot of attention.
Yeah.
So
So much
It
torque,
was-
it twisted the chest.
Yeah, they
it
bought
was-
those cars like the week before, so yeah, well, they'll get their safety stuff together for Six Summer. But
Yeah.
the SICK events are just so great, and Six Summer is such a great event,
It's a
and
Super
it's
Bowl
done
drag
differently
drives. Right,
than
right.
all the other dragon
It's-
drives, all the other drag races.
Super Bowl drag drive for sure.
Yeah.
And Dragon Drive just gotten. It's just I feel like it's the most
Right there.
addicting form.
There it
That
is.
shot,
Yeah.
his left rear tire is going straight down the track, and his right rear tire is going to the
Oh,
right.
Kyle, it makes so much torque it twists the chassis off the line. I'd be surprised if he opened the door.
Dominic
right
the
after that.
comments
I'd
are
be proud.
gold on the
That's not
post.
chassis twist. That's just ratchet.
Brother, that's chassis twist right there.
That's a few things.
Chassis twist is chassis twist.
I don't know if you know, that's a 9-second car.
It is. That's scary.
That thing, it's cool though.
It looks like
I
it's
like
about to
Lumberjack.
start
Without the
drifting.
couch.
I said caption this just because I knew people would get creative, and there are some funny captions. Like there are hundreds of comments on there, or I guess thousands. I don't.
Oh yeah.
There's a lot.
So the
Yeah.
next event we went to, Arizona Cash Days.
Right. That was a good
Uh,
time. They always have variety down there.
And
Always
we've been to
bring
that
out-
spot a few times.
Great spot. Great
There's a spot like pretty near that, but it's out in the middle of the desert. We drive for like 2 hours, and nobody bothers you, which is amazing.
It's one of the few spots we go to where we have we don't have to, traffic, car coming, whatever. It's like,
That's
don't
so
hear that the
nice.
entire time.
Now, let me
If
clarify
cops-
something. We understand that street racing is illegal,
Yep.
but we try to be as careful as we are with who we associate ourselves with. And there's not many street race promoters out there that we trust, like some of the ones we go out with. These guys really do a good job, very well organized. They're in the middle of nowhere where no one's driving through. The only people getting hurt are the people that are involved in this.
And
Uh,
we should say no one got hurt.
No one got hurt.
Yeah.
But I thought for sure, was it 4 passes in?
5 maybe.
4 or 5 passes in when this Mustang, I was on the finish line and it happened like right in front of me. And I was like, did he just, yeah, he just tumbled multiple times. It was very scary. It was very scary
Yeah.
to think that he might have gotten seriously hurt.
What was
The scary part was him coming out the passenger side,
Yeah.
not knowing
I was
how
worried
he
about that.
did
so
it.
I wasn't up there that I was at the starting line, but like when the car, it kept like, it went like on the shoulder, still in power, and all of a sudden I see it go off into the grass, and then the second I didn't see lights anymore, I was like, oh God,
Yeah,
what's
it was
happening?
all
Like,
dust.
you don't know what's happening. You can just hear the car just get destroyed as it's tumbling. I'm like,
Yeah.
Right
you
here.
can't even see how fast it's doing anything. Here we go.
There it is.
He's zero traction, and he tries to stab it on the side of the road. He was in the gravel,
It rolls, and then he said it.
Yeah.
He said
and then
that
right
it
here the
went
lights go out, and you're like, what?
ass over base, basically.
Yeah, he said it tumbled
front flipped.
front flip first, and then
Yeah.
tumbled sideways, and then yeah, we got this angle.
That'll shake anybody up.
And then you're like, so how'd you end up outside of the car? He goes, I don't remember that part.
Apparently his driver's door wouldn't open, so he crawled out the passenger door, and then one of his friends was prying open the driver door.
I saw that.
and opened it,
And he
and he
wasn't
wasn't
there.
in there. He's like, "What?" And then he saw he was on the outside of the passenger side. So I thought he fell out,
I thought so
but
too.
he was still in his harnesses. And
Oh,
he got out. He
okay.
just couldn't get the door open.
He just forgot about it.
That's a good
But it was
thing.
one of the quietest rollovers I've ever heard. I was probably 300, 200 feet from the rollover, and it was just like thud, 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 thud. It wasn't like smashing.
It was all that
bam,
sand.
Bang.
The sand was
The
probably
sand and the
Dude,
but
just-
he.
Just looking at this, it's a good thing he had a roll cage and safety gear because
It's a full chassis car.
it's
It wasn't just a cage; it was full chassis. So at least there's that.
Yeah, that's a good thing though, because if that was any other car, it'd be curtains probably.
And unfortunately, this is like the 4th time he's wrecked that car.
He said
mentioned
he
something at the drivers
Yeah.
meeting about
yeah.
going off roading.
And he didn't want to go to the hospital, but a few people reminded him that a lot of these racers race with Cali Nate that live in the Arizona area or are from California that came to race in Arizona, and they're like,
he was
this is what happened to Cali Nate. He didn't want to go to the hospital, and he waited a little bit, and then he went to the hospital, and it was just too late. They couldn't save him once he got there. So we're really glad he managed to go to the hospital, get checked out, and come back before the final race. They actually waited a few minutes to the final race so they
We're
could
like,
see it.
he's heading down the road right now. It's like, okay, we'll wait. We waited 3 minutes for him to come back so he could watch the final.
Yeah. But he told me at the end that he really wanted to say something on camera. He was just too shooken up because he just wanted to like explain. I can only imagine what's going through his brain, but I imagine he wanted to explain that it's not worth staying in it and risking your life and the other person you're
Right,
racing with
right.
just over a street race that you can win a few $1,000s at. It's not worth it. And that car is most likely totaled. It's officially totaled based on our thumbnail, but but I don't think you could save that based off the chassis. That car costs probably $80,000, $100,000 to build.
Maybe. Yeah, it's full chassis car, so yeah, it's not cheap.
Sad, but no one got hurt.
I'm sure he'll be back.
But that spot was amazing,
Great spot.
and we actually had a moon that night, so we can actually see. When you guys were out there last time, it was very dark.
yes.
Extremely.
We experienced that in Florida a few days ago. You guys went to the Merrill Ice Drags. I wasn't there for that one.
That was incredible.
So that was as fun as I remember it being. Witty and I went in 2018.
Yep.
But it was like we had to learn the hard way all day because every race we go to, it's all these classes and they'll do first round this class, first round this class, first round this class. That makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Every race I'd ever been to was like that. And when you go there, it was like, all right, we're gonna do rubber tire, round 1, and then round 2 and round 3, and then we're gonna move on to the next whole class and do all the rounds there. It's like,
yeah.
oh, this. I was like,
We
why
had
do
to
you
look
do-
at each other and be like, what's happening right
like,
now?
what's going on? And
You had to
then
re-strategize real
because
fast
the
on how to make
cars
a video.
just came right back around, and we're like, why do they do that? Oh, they don't need to cool down because they're
It's 10 degrees
10
out.
degrees out. This makes sense. And then it was like, oh, once you get to the higher horsepower cars with the studs in the tires, 3,000 studs in the tires, they're tearing that stuff up. So you're going to want to send the guys that make the least power first, so the ruts are smaller. And then once you get to the last part of the day, you have the fastest cars, and some of those have like a good amount of lift to them. So because when they go into those divots that have been created all day, if their chassis isn't lifted up like this much, they're just going to
touch the
hit,
ice.
and they're not. It's wild. But that's such a fun race to
You
go
can't
to.
have a low car there. I saw that from the shot you guys got with
Yeah, they
Matt and Whittier sitting
Yeah.
in the.
It's insane. Like you start out the day and it's just
Ruts.
like this beautiful, like flat, smooth ice lake, and then at the end of the day, it looks like somebody like purposely like dug trenches.
And
the
yes, we
ice.
are on a frozen lake where all couple hundred spectators are parked on the ice. The pits with the trailers are also on the ice. They wheel out an entire tower with an announcement system. Yes,
Everything's
that's on the ice. It is just, and then if you look behind us, people are ice fishing all over the lake because it was off a river and we're in a little inlet.
Dude, they
And
had
What was the ice? 24 inches, they said? It was
27.
27. It was just
27
over
inches
2
thick.
feet. And by the end of it, they need that because, what would you guys say? There's
A
close
foot.
to a foot.
Yeah, probably a
dude,
foot.
I think it was
more-
about a foot
probably
of
more.
ruts. And so, and you got to have about 9 to 11 inches for a small vehicle. So, I mean, you got to have it just about over 2 feet, over 18 inches, said what they wanted, because you got to be able to support
Our
everything. at the
Yukon
very
might
end.
have gotten high centered on that.
No, our Yukon didn't get high centered, and
Oh,
it
you dug through
also
it?
got first place.
No, I
Piloted
meant-
by
Oh,
Fred.
the old
Oh,
one. The
dude,
old
That
one.
was
Last
before they dug
Yeah.
the holes, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, Fred is a retired.
Oh, I am
semi-retired
a
champion.
Champion.
I'm a champion ice drag racer. Back in 2018, I did the rubber tire class, and
Got a trophy,
I got a trophy and everything for it.
first place.
So I only did it once, and I'm 1-0, so I'm retired now.
Good. That's a good ratio. I'd keep that.
Good,
But yeah,
good
that was
strategy.
a lot. It's so much fun because it's just like everyone's so nice up there too.
Yeah.
Like we rode in, all of us got to ride in cars. Witty just kept riding in a car because he was good luck.
Kept winning. We won.
He got in a car.
Got the weight
To
figured
do
out.
one hit, and then after that, he's like, car just came back around. He's like, I guess I'm just going to stay. And then comes right around for the final. He's like, should I stay? I was like, you're good
Yeah,
luck
you
now.
have
You
to
can't
now.
get out.
Yeah, 3 races in a row, we won, and it was nuts. It was a little over 1,000 horsepower on the ice.
Did you win the final?
We did.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, literally won. It was awesome. And it's just so insane.
Co-driver champion.
Yeah, you launch, and I mean, you feel like you are on the pavement to a degree. Like it's kicking around a little, but the fact that you get thrown back in your seat, and you wouldn't think that on the ice.
Yeah, 3,000 studs in those tires.
It does a
Your-
lot.
The car you're in had studs on.
Yeah, had screws. So they put just all sorts of different kinds of screws. Each person has their own opinion on which one works the best. You kind of hear that
And that
drywall
car's got
screws break
low
off.
profile tires on it.
Yeah, a lot of these guys don't like to tell you the type of screws that
Yeah.
they're running.
They're very secretive.
Yeah.
Yep.
On
Oh, is
how
this the
many
car you
and-
run?
No,
No, no,
Oh,
no.
okay.
None of
No.
us rode in this
I was
one.
in
That was my favorite car from the
glass
photos I
same
saw.
That thing is-
Camaro. What was I in, Fred? A black Camaro, maybe?
You were in a Camaro.
You had a split bumper, right? Or no, it's just a second gen or what? Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, something like
Yeah.
that. Anyway, well,
Cool.
that video will be coming out soon, and that was just a good
Yeah, this is
time.
unreleased
Yeah.
footage right
It was
here.
snowing. It literally was a blizzard for the first hour or two, which was just
That was
a vibe.
thick. It was thick snow.
was
It made
sick.
it so cool. It made it so cool.
I can tell you one thing. I've never been to a race where I've had to halt racing for a snowmobile crossing the track.
Yeah, that was pretty fun.
Oh yeah, the end of the track, because it was a public lake and they're going out to do the ice fishing stuff, and they turned the rest of the river into a road, an ice road to get around.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
All right, alternate climates. We just got back from Florida a couple days ago.
We went from 10 to 70.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty nice.
One of the most efficient trips we've ever been on. It was I think 49 hours from when we took off to when we got back to Omaha.
Was it really?
Yeah, we
And
filmed
we
a
got
street race.
a
in it.
street video, and we got north versus south.
Yeah,
And the street
Not
video, the streets were nice, just like Arizona. Traffic doesn't come through, cops don't come through.
Great spot.
We separate ourselves from any issues it could be. So if you do dangerous things, you got to be smart about it. So we go out to safe areas and have spotters and make sure we're not getting innocent people involved or whatever. But this was great because all the little trailers and everything can just pull off on the side of the road, and then great road down in Florida. I loved it.
I will say, is the first time, to my knowledge, we did 3 different spots without moving the trailers.
Mm.
So stay tuned
Oh,
for that
yeah.
video. That'll come out soon.
100%.
We'll show you how exactly that can
Yeah.
be possible, but 3
Yeah.
different spots, never move the trailers.
Yep.
Pretty cool.
yeah, for sure. And then we got some sleep. We were awake for 4 hours in our Airbnb, which
Yeah.
sucked because it was a nice house. But then we went to North versus South.
Yep.
And Mike from Sinister Performance just puts on such a good race.
Oh, yeah.
He's a
And that
good
was my
guy.
first time at this track. It was such a cool feel.
A lot of action at that race.
It reminded me of COTS a little bit, just like
Oh, for sure.
a
Yeah.
street race at the track.
Yeah,
And Limpy was there.
the first time we went, we had a couple, sketchy passes, some wrecks, some things.
Early on.
And then they announced at this one, all right, we scrubbed the track. That way it's nice and fresh. And I immediately was like, all right, we're going to have some things happen. And
Last year they only did half the track, I think. This year they did the whole thing.
that's what, yeah. And so,
All the rubber off the track.
yeah, everyone was okay. Everyone had the proper safety equipment. And
Getting
we made
squirrely, though.
We made a
Getting
post
squirrely.
about it and talked about how safety equipment is important. You should do it. And, just because we post other cars that don't have the proper safety equipment doesn't mean we support that. It's just can't only post cars that have cages. So,
But if the guy that wrecked at the end of the night didn't have the proper safety equipment, he would have not been okay.
no,
Right.
not at all. That was that. Okay. So when you
Very
see a
scary.
car spinning, and I know Fred mentioned this, it progressively didn't it get faster?
Way
The
faster.
momentum
Like
gets,
each roll.
Yeah.
And I have the photos from it where the battery's probably 50 to 100 foot in the air and things are flying everywhere. And once it stops and settles, there's always that moment, no matter the wreck, you're like, please get out, please get out,
And
please
Matt
get
was
out.
down there at the
I
end.
was-
Matt,
he
it went
literally-
right
It
in
was
front
right
of
in-
Matt.
right in front of him.
Literally
The
stopped
photos,
20
Matt's
feet away
there.
from me.
Yeah. And so that's just, and then he
Yeah.
gets out with some
got out so
Vic,
fast.
just, woo, he
That's
jumped
all,
out,
all adrenaline.
leaped
Oh, for
over
sure.
the wall. I was like, well, at least he's mobile. That was crazy.
It is one of those things where you see something like that happen, and you're like, please be okay. But I was right there and I saw him unbuckling. I'm like, he's okay. And gets out like he was on fire. It was,
You're always at the, or
He
most of the
ran
time,
away from
Yeah.
the car.
you're at the
Yeah.
end for crashes, and I have it ingrained into my head, your voice. Anytime a crash happens, even if you're not there, I hear you being like, "Oh no, no, no," or like, "Oh shit!" Like you're
I've
just
been told I have good
Matt,
reactions.
Matt has the best reactions.
well, it's scary. Like when Nick at the Dirty 30
Oh,
rolled
dude.
and then the fire, and you can hear the fear in Matt's voice. That like, bro, that was scary.
That
like
was
Fire
your
is the
homie's gonna
scariest thing in the
about
world.
to burn alive, and he
Well,
barely
yeah.
gets out. It's
yeah,
like,
it's one of those things where like I've been around these people. Like I've made friendships. Like Nick's
Exactly.
one of those people, and like that was a cool car. And seeing that go down, I was horrified. It in the video, it's probably like maybe like 5 seconds that he's in that car and it's on fire, but it felt like forever. Like I don't know if you can see it in that video, but like I'm taking steps toward him because I'm about to go open the door, do whatever I can.
yeah, because he
for
wasn't
that.
getting out right away. It
Yeah.
was scary. You had to be like, do I need to
Mhm.
do something here?
Just
Anytime fire happens, it's just like like that thing of like you want a wreck happens and you want the
Oh my
guy to get
gosh.
out of the car.
There it
Simpsons
is.
got up on the screen.
Yeah.
Yeah,
This is my angle right here.
And they
I
had this
am
track. There was no rubber on it. It had concrete dust on it because they just ground the whole thing.
fresh track. Yeah.
And when he hits the wall here, he launched some sandbags out of the car that went right
was,
past Matt.
It was his tool bag. So
Also sandbags.
Oh. he popped a fuel line and then his tool bag popped out and the tools skidded across the concrete, created spark, and that's what you see right
Jesus.
there.
Watch
so
him
you see that
somersault.
one of your friends.
Yeah,
are
you
just-
can see me
and he
taking steps
slips.
toward it. Yeah.
Yep.
and he didn't have gloves on.
He
That's
did
why he's
not.
holding his hands like that.
He couldn't find his gloves. They were in the back of the car.
Yep.
And so he just rushed and got ready for the race without finding them. And he still regrets that.
Even though he got out
so.
so fast, anytime you see a wreck happen and a fire happen, that wish of please
Fire's
get out of the
horrible.
car, it's so much more like
It
you
is.
need to get out now. Please get out now.
Like even watching this, like Kyle said before, like you watch something like this and it takes you back and it's horrifying to see this.
But that's why the proper safety equipment is important. Roll cages, fire, a cage, your helmet, everything needs to be up to date. And sometimes you think, oh, I don't want to waste money on that, or oh, it adds weight, or oh, I'm not fast enough. You are, because it doesn't take much. I mean, you can literally crash at 100 miles an hour, which all
Mhm.
cars will do. And if you don't have the proper safety equipment, then it's just not going to work out. And there's a lot of our friends that are still racing this day because of the proper safety equipment.
A lot of our
Mhm.
friends. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Back on track. Where we're going next.
TX2K.
Yeah, we got
TX2K is the next big event we're going to.
That'll be a good time, and we'll do a breakdown episode of that after we get back
Yes, for
because
sure.
that'll be
We'll have plenty to
a
talk
lot.
about.
Like we do share war stories like the entire drive back. I feel like every time. So you remember this? Remember this? Yeah, it's 2K is just a wild
There's
event.
always something.
TX2K used to be 80% street racing, 20% track. Now it's been flip flopped.
A little bit. Yeah. New
because
spot.
it's-
Weather was bad last year, so hopefully people come out for it this year. Weather will be better. More shops will come out because of the weather.
The staple event for us for well over a decade.
Oh, yeah.
Since 2010.
Yep.
And then after that, we have Cletus all-wheel drive, rear-wheel drive.
I'm
shootout.
excited for that. It's gonna be a good time.
Yeah,
They
there's a
marketed
lot of
one
that
for
really
us.
well.
Basically, the heaviest hitters you can think of
Yep.
from small tire
Hand-picked.
by Beaterbaum himself.
Yep.
Right.
Yep, for the rear-wheel drive class.
And
Right. And then
on
all-wheel
gas.
drive guys.
Was it on to gas? Or who picked?
I don't remember. Midnight Performance.
Oh, yeah.
Midnight Performance.
That's right.
Thank you, Kundi. Midnight Performance is in charge of the all-wheel drive class with their El Gringo. I think is going to be the star of the show
Car's
there.
Sweet.
I'm pumped.
God, I love that truck.
I'm
And we
seriously-
just dropped a video of that truck in Austin.
the
If you guys haven't seen
streets.
that one, that one's an awesome video as
Yeah.
well. We
That
went
was
to
a really.
we went to 6 spots. Had to move the trailers
painful-
every time.
We left there. We started at 10. We left at 9:30 to go to our hotel, and got like 3 hours of sleep.
Yeah,
Mm.
and then we headed to Oklahoma City to film some other stuff.
Yep.
But I think that's it.
Yeah, we're also doing the reunion same weekend as the all-wheel drive, rear-wheel drive shootout.
That's right.
That's kind of like a streetcar race, TX2K, FL2K type of event.
Yeah.
You guys got anything else?
No,
No?
Let us know what you thought. Let us know what you wanted us to talk about next. But we got a lot coming. We got a lot of guests lined up. One of them's going to be at the all-wheel drive, rear-wheel drive shootout. So keep an eye out for that. Hit the subscribe button, and we'll see you guys next time.
Peace.
later.